The Seattle Seahawks crowd today was absolutely a menace. 8 false starts for the Carolina Panthers. The 12s are back.
Yeah, I saw the announcers even talk about it used to be a fortress of impossible to win, but it's changed. But then this week again, you had back-to-back false starts. You had the crowd in it, Pete Carroll pumping them up. So they are, in fact, back. If I told you going into next week that we win and we become 3-1 before the bye week, we would all say that was a successful season. So it's really good to see this change from week 1 where everyone thought it was over to a team that has a chance to be 3-1 going into a bye week and get healthy.
Yeah, we went from the sky is falling to hey, things are all right.
Yeah, they're okay. You're listening to the Sports on Tap Seattle podcast. I'm Sammy, and with me as always is my older brother, George.
Your favorite place to be a fan of Seattle sports. Now let's get this party started.
Tito, are you ready? Are you ready? You ready?
Welcome on in to the Sports on Tap Seattle podcast. The Seahawks, George, with a win today. First half ugly. Second half was pretty clean, looked good. I think a 10-point win could have been a 17-point win. A lot of injuries, and we still made it out and won the game. So overall, fantastic.
Yeah, it seems like the curse of an old backup quarterbacks didn't come back to bite us this week.
Felt like it for a second.
Yeah, I know, man. We lost to Andy Dalton last year in New Orleans. They put up 30-plus points. Colt McCoy is the famous one. Whenever he plays the Seahawks, he turns into Texas Colt McCoy. But today, the Seahawks defense actually looked pretty good, and we were able to limit Andy Dalton. They still scored 27 points on us. But a lot, I mean, I would say even those last, the last 7 points were garbage points. Is 20 points.
Yeah, well, the last touchdown throw to Adam Thielen was nice. But yes, overall, it was pretty known that the game was over, and that's when he got that last bit of points. On top of that, I believe, we've had not only an injury to Tariq Woolen before the game where he didn't play, but I think Trey Brown got hurt in the middle of the game. We had like Artie Burns out there and Michael Jackson. And that last touchdown was on Witherspoon, which despite, that's one play. He had a great game for his second overall NFL game. So overall, the defense played pretty good. I mean, I'm not saying it was a perfect game by any means, but for the injuries that we've had in kind of the early season here, they played really well. And then on top of that, the offense did what they needed to do. At the end of the day, I feel like with the Seahawks team, the first half felt like that classic first half where we say, man, not again. Are we going to do this? I think the first half was 5 for 5 from the field goals. I think first half was 3 for 3, 12-13 we were down. And then we came out of the half. We started off the game with 4 for 4 straight field goals, a 15-13 lead. And I was thinking,
5 field goals.
Yeah, 5.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, not again. Please.
I know.
But then the Seahawks found a way to snap out of that problem that they've had. And they got to the point where they scored a couple of times, they made a couple big plays, and got it done. And quickly, before we get on to this podcast or YouTube video, whatever you're listening or watching on, make sure you like and subscribe, send to a friend, share, do all that stuff. Also, right now, we are not doing any advertisements of other companies or anything like that. And what we're doing is asking you guys to go put your email in at sontshop.com, SONTshop.com. That's our brand. We're selling Seahawks stuff, Mariner stuff, our brand stuff. And if you sign up for those emails, you're going to be part of giveaways, which, do you want to tell them about the giveaways?
Yeah, we're going to be giving away vintage T-shirts, vintage hats. See this hat I'm wearing right now? You might be able to win something just like this. Who wouldn't want a hat this cool?
I don't know if I'd call that vintage.
You wouldn't? It's Mitchell & Ness. It's been like 10 years, man.
It's
a throwback.
Throwback.
Look, it says nostalgia inside.
Yeah, that's a throwback.
It's a throwback.
Anyways,
it'd be more vintage.
If you get on the mailing list, we're going to be doing vintage giveaways, 1 or 2 a week, where you can win that 6 stuff. All those stuff you see at throwback stores are like $100. You can get it for free. So, and also check out the shop if you want to support us. Pretty simple, right?
Very, very simple, man.
Love y'all. SONTshop.com.
Absolutely. And you never really want to just settle for field goals, right? I mean, that's not something you want to do. But let's look at the bright side here for a second. Jason Myers has been struggling a little bit early in the season with a couple missed field goals. In his first 2 games, I think he missed one at Detroit and missed one in week 1 as well, or 2 in week 1. I forget.
I think it was 2 in week 1 and none in Detroit.
It was none in Detroit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I wouldn't, because I was going to say too. I don't know if I'd say he has been struggling. I think he had a moment of struggle in one of the first games.
Well, whatever you want to call it, label it, doesn't matter. There was a point where Jason Myers, I think, was automatic, right? Like he could not miss a field goal. he hasn't been so automatic. So maybe I want to take a look at like some positive stuff here is maybe will help his rhythm. Going for 5 for 5, there will be times where you need your kicker to be in rhythm, and maybe later in the season we need to make a big kick. And looking back at like going 5 for 5, getting more confidence, seeing the ball go through the uprights, like almost like a NBA 3-point shooter, seeing the ball go through the hoop a few times, like maybe that'll give him confidence through the rest of the season to actually make some big field goals. That's just me, my little theory.
Yeah, I mean, I would say as long as your team wins the game, there's never really a negative to your kicker going 5 for 5. Whether he's been locked down or whether he's been the best kicker in the league or he's been the worst kicker in the league, it's always good, especially in a win where we're not sitting here saying, yeah, positive is Myers was 5 for 5, but we lost by 12, right? It's like a positive on top of
more
everything else that happened. I think two big parts of positivity to look at here is that was the second one. I think one thing I mentioned, of course, is despite all the injuries, this was a very positive win because I don't care who it is. I actually believe that going against Andy Dalton was probably a worst case scenario, not worse or a what's the right word? I'm not saying it's the worst case, but it's worse of a case than playing Bryce Young, like a rookie quarterback. Pete Carroll has been great. A lot of good coaches are great against rookie quarterbacks. They had a veteran quarterback in there, and it's the NFL. Teams are good. So at the end of the day, going against a veteran quarterback and having it be Andy Dalton, who's pretty decent, and with our injuries, this is a very impressive win to come out with. So I think that's two positives that we already talked about. And then you got to mention two other big positives. Geno Smith, I saw it was like his record. He had 175 passing yards off play action.
Wow.
And the reason that works is because I think the man of the day, Kenneth Walker, who actually the running backs in general had a great game today. I mean, Charbonnet doesn't have the stats that Kenneth Walker does, but he had some big beast mode type of runs, a lot of stiff arms, a lot of trucking people.
Really wish he got a touchdown just to match his kind of breakout day, his best game so far as an NFL player. That would have been nice to get that touchdown at the end of the game.
Yeah, on the truck stick.
Yeah, on the truck stick one.
But he didn't. Whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, the win is a win, and Kenneth Walker got some of those touchdowns. I think Kenneth Walker ended up with like 110 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns. I know it was
more than that because he had 50-something yards rushing. It was like
100-something rushing, I believe.
Sorry, I mean 56 receiving and like 98 rushing. I think it was 156 all-purpose yards for Kenneth Walker.
Not bad.
Not bad at all.
Whatever the number is, the point is that Kenneth Walker had a phenomenal game, and I think that's what helps Geno Smith in that play action. You even got to see other rookies get involved, like Zach Charbonnet, like Jake Bobo. Everybody, Devin Witherspoon was all over the field today. That's another positive that I'm taking out of this. Is I saw Jake Bobo score a touchdown, rookie. I saw
Great
Zach Charbonnet
on that touchdown, by the way, by Bobo. I did not think he was going to be able to get his feet in bounds, the toe tap. I mean, that was some elite footwork by Bobo.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive. But Zach Charbonnet, Devin Witherspoon, you start to naming these guys, and it's like this rookie class is starting to make a little bit of an impact in this game, and that's without Jackson Smith-Njigba making a big impact. That's without some other pieces on the defensive line that we brought in. So overall, there's a lot of, in any game, there's a lot of negatives you can bring out or things you can work on. But I really love that I'm coming out of this Seahawks game with the injury-riddledness against the team that, we should beat, and we did, despite the injuries, despite whatever happens. You got it done, and at the end of the day in the NFL, it's about getting it done sometimes.
Yeah, 2-1 seems really good. I mean, look, a lot of people were ready to jump off a cliff when we started off 0-1. And now we got a chance to go to New York next week against the Giants, who, I mean, I don't know how the Giants keep getting primetime games. Like, is this going to be their third primetime game now? Or second prime? Yeah, third one. They had Sunday Night Football to start the season. They had the Thursday Night Football against the 49ers, and now they got the Seahawks on Monday night. So I guess America has been tortured by having to watch that New York Giants offense. But as Seahawks fans, we're going to look forward to that on Monday night. And that's what we have a really good opportunity to go into the bye week at 3-1. And as you mentioned on the previous pods, like, we have a lot of injuries. This is a good time for a bye week. Good time to play what seems like a bad Giants team, and even a better time to see a bye week coming in so we can get a little bit healthy.
Yeah. The Giants also are going to be without Saquon Barkley again, which is a helpful matter.
Is that confirmed now?
I mean, he had a high ankle sprain. I think he's out like 4 to 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks? Okay.
Yeah, it's been 1 week. So I'd be unless I am
Yeah,
misreading.
I wasn't sure exactly what the
It's been 1
yeah,
week,
okay.
so I'm pretty sure unless it was like changed diagnosis. You never know in the NFL. And some of these guys get high ankle sprains and come back in like a week, and I'm like, how the hell do you do that? But I'm pretty sure he was listed out 4 to 6 weeks. Anyway, they've been playing bad football. So at the end of the day, they haven't been the best team that they could possibly. Their only win was against Arizona, and it took like a miraculous comeback. And Arizona's actually a better team than maybe anybody's anticipated. But the Giants in general have not been playing good. And you got to remember, the only win for the Giants was that Cardinals non-primetime game. The other primetime game, Daniel Jones has – people make fun of Kirk Cousins' primetime games statistics. If you look at Daniel Jones' primetime stick, I think he's 1-11 now, and it's like 2 or 3 years that he's been starting quarterback in primetime games. I saw something on Thursday night about it. This is a good time to run into a team like the Giants. You're fixing Carolina and the Giants. We're fixing up some injuries, and then you get a bye before you start to hit that part of the schedule where it gets actually kind of tough.
Yeah, no, I mean, well said there. I'm looking forward to Monday night. You mentioned something a little bit earlier about Jackson Smith-Njigba, and I kind of wanted to bring that up. And he's looked, I would say, underwhelming to say the least from what we expected. I know he's been suffering from a wrist injury, getting back into it. He is our third receiver behind Lockett and DK, obviously. I am not overall like super duper concerned about his like long-term future nor am I like tempered by my expectations, I guess. Like, I still think he's going to be a stud. But at the same time, you look at him on the field, he does look a lot smaller than like I realized, right? When I saw him in like NFL action, like in a regular season game.
I mean, he looks like Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, but I mean, and I just kind of expect him to be. He looks even smaller to me than Tyler Lockett. What do you think overall? Like, have you tempered your expectations now? Because I haven't. I mean, I guess I would say like if my expectations were a 10 out of 10, they're like a 9.5 now, not a 10. But like, still think he's gonna be a stud.
I mean, I think we should have all. Unless your expectations were for him to be Justin Jefferson, like, they should have been pretty realistic that he's the third receiver on this team.
Yeah.
And starting the season coming off wrist surgery, which you catch the ball with your hands and like your wrist. And I feel like I was surprised he was even back. I was like, I'm obviously not a wide receiver expert here, but I'm like, how does a guy play football as a receiver with a wrist surgery like 2 weeks later? That first of all was like enough for me to be like, okay, let's not expect too much to come out of this. You have to remember, he's a guy that has also lived, I think, a lot of like potential type of stuff because he had injuries in college. He's coming into this situation also where this team is not a team that's looking to make some new young guy a number one receiver. He is going to get, if Metcalf and Lockett are going to get 6-7 targets each, that means Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to have to be a guy that gets 3-4 targets a game, minimum or maximum, right now in his career until things start to change or until he has a breakout game. So I'm not necessarily lowering my expectations. My expectations were that he was going to be the third receiver. Now, you could say like, it's pretty crazy that like Jake Bobo caught a touchdown before him, right? Jake Bobo undrafted.
It's a happenstance. I mean, that happens to anyone. Could happen to any player in the NFL.
And on top of that, the way attention works for like receivers is, you're gonna get Jake Bobo might be open a couple more times as the number 4 or 5 receiver than the number 2 or 3 guy or whatever it ends up being on the play. That's just how it works. Things happen on plays. I understand where the like honesty hour comes from here, where it's like, oh, well, he was the 20th pick in the draft. Like, there has been no play yet where you're like, there he is, right? Like, what a play. But I'm going to chalk it up to he's the third string, and he's going to get third string targets, right? And he's coming off wrist surgery.
I totally agree with that, like the third string thing. But like, I saw a lot of people on Twitter talking about the wrist surgery. I'm not going to really put too much weight onto that because I haven't seen him drop any balls. I've seen him catch a few balls. It doesn't seem like his wrist. He's not going to be able to play football if he wasn't able to catch the football. My problem is he just hasn't. I saw a stat. He's getting a lot of separation, but not a lot of targets. So I think that what you said, the first one, he's a third receiver. Gino's just maybe not looking his way completely yet. And I think it takes time, right? Trust. Like, wide receiver and quarterback relationships take time to build. That's where I look at it.
Yeah, I think this is why when you look at situations like, I don't know, if you right now go look at Kansas City,
Yeah.
you know you can most likely put your money on the fact that Travis Kelce, 10 out of 17 games, is going to end up with the most targets.
Right.
Right now, if you got to put your money on it, I would bet you that 15 to 16 out of the 17 games this year, either Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf are going to be the only ones with 7 or 8 plus targets.
I couldn't agree more. Unless one of them, hopefully, knock on wood, gets hurt.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about realistically. Like, at the end of the day, all things said about sports future-wise is assuming the person's on the field, right?
Right.
So if he's the third string, he's going to get somewhere between 3 to 5 targets maybe a game. And you might have a game where he has 10 and he has a breakout game, whatever. But that's just where we have to expect it to be at. And it doesn't concern me at all. He's a rookie, number one. Number two is we're here to win games, not about, like.
We're not the Atlanta
Yeah.
Falcons right now, who, by the way, do look good. But they lost to the Lions today. But they've looked pretty good so far this year. But they have someone like Bijan Robinson, right? They're more concerned about getting Bijan reps and getting Bijan the ball and getting Bijan into action and developing Bijan than winning football games. Versus the Seahawks, who are more concerned about winning football games than getting, like you said, JSN targets and opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, the Falcons are a weird scenario. If Drake London and Kyle Pitts, they have a lot of talent for a team to not be that good. And they're decent, but they're not that good, right? They're like not a Super Bowl contender. They need a quarterback. But that's the difference, right? The Seahawks have a quarterback. So this is not about, what's DK's future and JSN's future and Zach Charbonnet and Ken Walker, who, remember, he's only in his second year also. Like we forget some of these guys that, even like a Kenneth Walker who's dominating, like it's just his second year. But he's the one that fits in this offense now. We're trying to compete for now. So it's going to be about winning games, not about how people are developing. Obviously, you want them to develop regardless. But that's just the reality.
Right.
And overall, the Seahawks won the game. So for me, I could care less what, Jackson Smith-Njigba looks like today because we won and he didn't do anything that's like atrocious.
Totally.
Drop some crazy, like he didn't have a Kadarius Toney week 1 with Kansas City where he was dropping every single pass or something. So overall, the Seahawks won and everybody's getting involved. The offense looked pretty good in the second half. Like you said, the kicker made every kick that he was given an opportunity for. The defense made enough plays. Yeah, without that final touchdown, we're talking about a very good defensive game for the Seahawks, right? Not giving up much at all. So overall, I'm just happy about everything that's going on because after week 1, you would have thought the world's ending. And now we're sitting at 2-1. And next week, we have a very good chance to get ourselves to 3-1 before a bye week. And all of a sudden, the year is completely different than what we thought maybe 2 weeks ago. And I'm accusing us too, George. Like, we both were way more calm than most Seattle sports fans. Like, we're okay. Like, it's one game. But we thought it was fucking bad still, too.
One thing I do want to bring up, though, and I think it's important, is the fans. I think they got the call, right? After the Rams week 1, the crowd, I don't know if they were good or bad or whatever you want to say, but we have not been a fortress at home, to say the least. We talked about this on our last podcast. This team has not been the world beaters at home that they used to be, and always we say, like, the crowd might not bring it. I saw even someone on Twitter say, or X, sorry, Elon, that the crowd has now been priced out and it's a lot of corporate people and they're not as loud anymore. 8 false starts by the Carolina Panthers today. The crowd was loud.
Yep.
The crowd brought it. I know the record I think was 11, but I think this is the second or third most false starts for opponents in history of Lumen Field. So the crowd did its job, and if we can hold home field advantage, which is really important in the NFL, this team could do really special things.
Yeah, I think the crowd's a very good example there because Pete Carroll was pumping up the crowd too, doing like the hands up. There was a certain point in the game where it mattered most. I don't know the exact, sometime in the third quarter. When the game's close, I saw like Seahawks account tweeting like, hey, that's another false start. Another one was back-to-back plays. Like, that's on you, 12s. Keep it going. And I was like, that feels like the Seattle Seahawks like crowd fan base that we knew and need, right? Because even the announcers on Fox, right? Yeah, on Fox, they were saying this used to be a fortress of winning where opponents came in here and feared being here and they couldn't win a game here. And he said, not so much lately. So the Seahawks want to get back to that and get back to that, style of winning and, the style of the crowd being loud. And I when I heard that, I was thinking, man, like it's not just like a Seattle fan that sees that. Like everyone's starting to see that this has not been the House of the 12s that has been like unstoppable,
Right.
the loudest, like Arrowhead surpassed us for like that loudest crowd again.
It's pretty easy to be loud if you have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback.
That's true. And Taylor Swift's in the crowd today. Big deal, right?
Oh, yeah.
Taylor Swift in the suites. But the point is, we got to get back to that. And I think today was a great example of, hey, here's people screaming, yelling, getting back into the being 12s.
Yeah, back to 12.
Yeah, back to 12. That's what I like to hear. I'm just really excited, George. I think the final thing I want to talk about here for a minute is, as those know, if you're listening on the podcast, if you're listening on YouTube, you should know that we are always spitballing after games, right? If you come back on usually Wednesday, Thursday, we'll have a little preview of next week and stuff. And my final like spitball conversation is, right now, I don't want to talk about just like the next opponent because we usually save that. I want to talk about the season outlook in general. If I told you we win next week and we're going into the bye at 3-1, you'd say it's a phenomenal start to our season, right?
I would say it's exactly the start I had wanted.
Yeah.
Like didn't expect 4-0.
We have a really hard schedule though the rest of the year. A lot of Bengals, Ravens, 49ers twice, a lot of Cowboys who are good. The Cardinals who beat the Cowboys today. They look actually very good at football recently. Pretty tough schedule coming up. Where right now, like, if your expectations, I know your expectations were probably a little higher than the quality of the team. I remember yours specifically was like maybe 12-5, right?
I think
13,
12-5 or 11-6. I forget.
Yeah, like I would say right now 12-5, the way the team's playing is probably a little higher than that. Would be overachieving slightly.
Right.
I want to know, where's your expectations at now? I'm personally looking at like this looks like a 10-7-ish team.
That's exactly where I'm at.
That is going to make the playoffs. Like,
yeah, it's going to be wild. They're not
well.
going to win the division. I'd love to win the division. I'm not going to like punt on the division.
But they don't look as good as the 49ers.
They don't look as good as the 49ers. The Rams look a lot better than we expected. We'll see tomorrow Monday night. And so do the Arizona Cardinals.
There's no easy wins.
There's no easy wins. Yeah, I thought like that Cardinals were going to be pushovers. The Rams were going to be pushovers. And we're going to be able to just stack division wins and split with the 49ers. I think when I went through the schedule, I had us like 5-1 against the division, and we already lost one of those games I had winning. I had us just splitting with the 49ers, so now the division looks harder. So it's gonna be a little tougher than we thought. But yeah, around 10-7, 11-6.
Yeah, I'm at that point where I could see us like almost splitting with everybody in the division, right? Because I think we should get a win against the Rams, even though it's in SoFi.
Unfortunately, that's all we can do against the Rams.
Yeah,
split.
But I mean, in SoFi, it's not the hardest stadium to play in or anything. Right. 49ers is going to be the toughest one to get a split against because they are a good football team. And then the Cardinals, like, sometimes in Arizona shit happens, like with the Seahawks. Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes there's weird games. This is not I'm with you. When the season started, I was looking at that schedule and I was saying 2 wins against the Cardinals, 2 wins against the Rams. Now, again, with those 4 games, it might be a 2-2, it might be a 3-1. So yeah, I have to temper down to 10-7. After week 1, you would have thought everyone thought the team was going to be 7-10 or 6-12 or 6-11, but 10-7 I think feels fair, and I think I'm glad we're on the same page on that.
Absolutely, man. Same exact page.
We'll be back on like Wednesday or Thursday next week to talk some Seattle Seahawks, hopefully Seattle Mariners in the playoffs, or getting into the playoffs. We have a huge week ahead. I think some notes are that George and I are attending the Washington Huskies at Arizona. That's next Saturday, right? Yeah, this next coming Saturday. Maybe we'll do like a on the road pod about that game.
That's a great idea.
Something we'll figure something out.
On the road again,
and we'll post something on the feed of us at the games. If you're a Husky fan, if you're a Cougar fan, sorry, but that's just how it is here. And Mariners trying to make the playoffs. Half a game out of Houston, starting 3 games against Houston despite a sweep, and then the Seahawks Monday night in New York. So a lot on the Seattle sports horizon this week. So I think stay tuned. We'll be using these bad boys a lot.
Absolutely.
All right, bro. Well, just like last week, love you, man. And
love you too, man.
I'm Sammy.
And I'm George.
And you know what we like to say.
Hey, thanks for stopping by.
Also, don't forget to subscribe, like, send to a friend. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, like, and share. And if you're on the podcast, share with a friend, leave a review, and we'll be back next time. You can find us everywhere at Seattle on Tap.
Peace.